The Lord spoke to me yesterday in the service at our church that He was going to show me something. When I arrived at my house I started to feel my body losing strength and exhaustion took over me. My body was heavy and I didn't have the strength to do anything, and I called Sister Solange and told her what I was feeling. She asked her husband to pick me up at my house and take me to church for prayer. I started to feel very strong tremor in my body and I was already without strength to walk. On the road to church my bones tremble. He said a prayer for my life and when I got there and sat down I started to feel the presence of the Lord very strong, and the Lord spoke to me, "My daughter, rest to my heart because today I will take you to a place, it is necessary. There are my children whose name are no longer written in the book of life." There was a moment I could not breathe because the God of heaven took my spirit away from my body. I don't know if you believe in rapture, but I usually say that whether you believe it or not it won't change anything because this happened to me. In this night and in that moment I saw my spirit that left my body, for the Lord took my spirit above the first heaven, and when I got there, I was challenged by principalities and demons and they were fighting me. The church of the Lord was fighting and helps me a lot. They used their sword. I was above the first heaven and I heard uproar of thousands and millions of demons and they had many kinds of weapons and armor. A specific demon of death approached me and said, "I will go down now in this church where your people gather and I will go ruin their lives," and he wished me premature death and he tried to touch my body. Then the Lord allowed my spirit to return to the church for me to speak the warning from God about these threats and battle that is coming. As my body had this numbness, the Lord withdrew my spirit from me. I could no longer go where I wanted to go. I said, "Lord, what is the light that is by my side?" And I heard the voice of the Lord that told me, "My daughter, it's me, your God." The Lord was taking me back to the second heavens, the dwelling place of principalities of devils, and they stood as one barrier to prevent me from passing. The Lord and I advance, since these powers, principality and demons could not bear the presence of the Lord, they open up the way for us. And I heard the voice of God saying again, "Daughter of mine, I'm going to reveal something to you tonight because my people have become lukewarm and lost my presence. They opened the breach to falsification and must return to my word and abandon precept of men they have adopted. It's not me that control the church anymore, for man has introduced his doctrine in my church which does not come from me." As we rose I thought the Lord was taking me to heaven. That was not the case. As my spirit went up I saw a black hole. As I watched this black hole my spirit was pulled towards it and the Lord told me, "My daughter, don't worry, I will not forsake you, I will guide you along this path, and when you return you can tell my people everything." When my spirit entered that black hole I didn't see anything, it was all dark. Then I started to fall deeper and deeper into that hole and the glory of God was already gone from me. As I continued to fall deeper and deeper there was a moment when I started to hear screams. I heard so much screams and cries of despair, people who shouted, and the Lord spoke to me, "Daughter, I will be taking you to hell now." I started to hear screams from damned souls. There were men, women, children. I kept falling in that endless pit of darkness and finally I saw a gate. The door was closed. I was instantly joined by the light of God's presence. The door opened by itself and I saw flames of fire. If you don't believe that hell is real, it's okay. But the screams of the people in that place became unbearable and stronger and deeper in me, and it was so painful, and the Lord took me to one door that was inside this world of fire. When we had entered that hall with the Lord I saw several demons who talked to each other. I heard one of the legion saying, "Lately it's not been so difficult for us to defeat the church because many have already lost vision. Many are inside that man's church and have no spiritual vision." This legion said my spirit of deceit had entered into that man's church and these people are already serving me and they think they're serving the man in white. I saw a group of demons that was in the corner of that room. One of them was sitting before a table and on that table there was a paper where he started drawing a new skirt for ladies that was to be designed. He was drawing a skirt. The Lord made that paper turn around so I could see how he drew a lace skirt and put a little small underneath. Actually he drew two skirts and said to his servant demons, "I already did my part drawing these skirts. Now go to the earth and inspire a man or woman to design this skirt." I saw a demon that took the paper where the skirts were drawn. He left the kingdom of hell and arrived in front of a man on the earth. At that moment the Lord told me, "My daughter, this man is a stylist. Now you can see who inspires stylists to make these modern fashion clothes. It is Satan himself." I asked the Lord to tell me more. He said to me, "Notice that this skirt that was drawn by the demon is particularly for young lady who goes to church, not for unbeliever. This kind of long skirt is popular among choir and youth group in many church. The demon descended on earth to inspire a stylist to make this skirt for my people. There are clothes made uniquely for the Christian lady. I didn't come here to give a new doctrine to the church. I came here tonight to report what God showed me. I saw the stylist sewing the skirt drawn by a devil of hell. This skirt arrived to sisters of this particular church, for they use it as uniform of the church annual congress. As a result, this legion infiltrated the church thanks to his skirt. Because of hell's fashion, I saw people in the church with this kind of skirt. Then the Lord brought my spirit back to another hall of hell, and when I entered this hall it had no end. I never saw on earth a hall of that size, and I saw the various people. The Lord said, "I will reveal to you today why my spirit does not dwell in dirty temple." And when I got there I saw a demon that had a black cape and was all black, and his face was more or less like a dog's face, but it wasn't 100% a dog's face. His hands had very big claws and he held a woman and was dragging her. Then he started torturing her. She was crying, screaming and asking for mercy. She said, "I can't take this torture anymore. It's been so long that I've been here in this place. When will I get out of here?" She still didn't understand that she is lost for eternity in hell. The Lord said, "Daughter, ask her why she is here in this place." And I asked her, "Why you're here?" She said, "It's because when I was on earth I had an argument with member of our church inside the church, and that person did me a lot of harm because he spoke words that hurt me. And when this happened I told myself from that day I will not look at his face anymore. I had such a hatred for that man in my heart that I spent the rest of my life inside the church with my heart full of hate for him. I couldn't stand that man's face. I don't want to tell you many things. It hurt me that I didn't forgive him until the day he asked me for forgiveness in the middle of all the church. But I said I wouldn't forgive him, and the Lord spoke to me, "Daughter, you see that in the middle of my church there are still people with hard hearts, people who don't forgive, but they want me to forgive them when they sin against me. All my church want to be forgiven, but they don't forgive their neighbor." When he said that, a crooked demon began to torture the woman with those claws, destroying and reaping his body until her internal organs fell out. Then her body was restored again, and the demon would start the torture all over again. And this monster laughed at her face, telling her, "You see, you spent all the time there inside the church and it was such an easy thing for you to forgive, but you preferred eternity here in the place of torment. Now you will have to endure." And the Lord told me again that in his church there are people who have their heart hardened, spending time inside the church thinking they are deceiving God and cannot forgive. The Lord led me to a man and he was with a Bible in his hands, and the Lord said, "My daughter, this man served me when he was on earth." And I asked, "Lord, then why did he land here?" And the Lord said, "Ask him, he will tell you, he knows what he did." And I asked him, "What was it that you have done?" He said, "Help me, please get me out of here." I knew the Lord when I was on earth. It is after my pastor anointed me that I got excited and I started delivering a message. In the middle of the church, I started talking about the things and saying things that was not true, and I said to people, "The Lord said this and that," but it was a lie. After I was anointed I exalted myself and I thought just because I had been ordained my position was different from others and I was special. I stopped praying. I thought my life with God was okay and I didn't serve anymore. Most of the time I went to visit the church and the leaders invited me to go up on top of the altar, but I knew my life with God was not good, and one day I stepped on the altar to preach. The Lord lifted his servant that said to me, "Today you will not pass, you will go down to the grave because you're stepping on my altar." When I heard the voice of God I still had time, but at the end of the service I went home and got in the house and I went to sleep. I felt a stitch in my heart and I died of a heart attack that day, and I left my body and landed here, but I need a chance to go back and make everything right with God. And the Lord took me away from that man and took me to another woman who was there in hell. When I got there I didn't ask why she was there. That moment she saw Jesus she confessed her sin before the Lord, and she said, "Lord, forgive me, Lord, I know that I prostituted myself on earth. I know, Lord, that I stayed with married men, but get out of here. I can't stand it anymore. It's a daily torment." A demon came, grabbed the lady in his hand, and he stuck that spear in that woman's private parts, and that woman screamed a lot and he took it off. When I saw this torment I started to cry, and I said, "Lord, I don't want to see this anymore. I can't stand it." And the Lord said, "I will show you, cause I know you have structure to see this." Then I saw a man, and that man spoke in tongues in hell, and he was speaking to me in tongues, and he would start prophesying. He would start saying, "The Lord is giving you a key, the Lord is trying to give you a car, the Lord said that he was going to deposit such an amount of money in your account," and he started to prophesy to me. At that moment a demon came to the man who was prophesying and began to drag him on the floor, and 5 demons started to torment him, and they began to gouge out that man's eyes. They pulled out that man's tongue and started to cut him. And there was a demon that said, "Now prophesy," and the demon was laughing at that man who said he was a prophet. And I heard the voice of God, "It is wrong to think I cannot bless my church financially, because I can. I have gold and silver, but these days may have been looking for me only for financial reason, and they don't want to follow me with all their heart. They one only seeks financial interests." The Lord took me to another man. This man said I was a treasurer in the house of God. I was the one who managed the financial part, but I started to see a lot of money because the church where I congregate grew and a lot of money started coming in. The pastor had a lot of confidence in me, and I went up to count the offerings whenever the service ended, and I began to steal part of the offering money, and many times God spoke to me to warn me. But one day there was a day when I arrived at the church, and at the end of the service I went to count the offerings. At that moment a woman appeared before me. I don't know how she appeared, but that woman began to transfigure into a demon, and she squeezed my neck and said, "I didn't even kill you because you are stealing, but your life, your soul is mine." I left the church and didn't come back to church. There was a shootout in the neighborhood and I was hit by a bullet and died that day. And to this day I am paying the price for all the wrong I've done on earth.